just a little bit. You can't be too much, but you can't be too little. Got to be somewhere in the middle, you know, like the Goldilocks syndrome. She had to try everybody's best before she finally got to that.
Pleasure to be with you again this year and with Willie, and thank you all for the warm welcome to be here in Frankfurt and in other cities in Germany and Wiesbaden, as you mentioned, and then Kassel last night, and then to be here when Zohar returned from the Gaza flotilla. So another hand for Zohar. Zohar and I have known each other since, what, 2011?
2009, actually, from the Code Pink Gaza Freedom March in Cairo.
2009, the Gaza Freedom March in Cairo. So a long time. We've worked together on issues concerning Gaza. And that Freedom March was 1,500 people from 55 countries coming to Cairo in 2009 to try to go to Rafah to bring all of these people into Gaza for only one day. And just like the convoy in 2025, last year, that had over, 3,000 people that went to Cairo, the Egyptian government would not let us go in 2009, and they didn't let the convoy go in 2025. 16, 17 years later. But it shows citizen activism, international activism from around the world, of course, has been trying to raise the voices, help raise the voices, the very strong voices of the people of Palestine, who have been saying ever since 1948, 36, 25, that what Israel has been doing and what the Israeli militias were doing in those decades, of course, is wrong, is horrible, violations of human rights. And now in 2023, 24, 25, 26, we see that it has escalated to a genocide that we try with our own governments, and my government, the United States, is so complicit in this genocide for providing the weapons to the Israelis that kill Palestinians. And for that, I apologize. I apologize on behalf of the American people who have tried to get successive administrations to stop their support for the state of Israel. But because of the long-standing political alliance, whether it's Democratic or Republican, the politicians of our country are paid off by the state of Israel to protect the criminal acts of the state of Israel. So we try in the U.S., but we have not been successful yet. But we will keep trying to stop this horrific alliance that the U.S. government has had with the Israeli government.
Yes, correct.
The people of America, of the United States, do not agree with what our governments are doing, our government is doing. I was asked to come here to speak on international solidarity, and of course we will continue to talk about international solidarity with Palestine, but I do want to mention that the solidarity that we have with Cuba, where the United States again is trying to decapitate, to take away the leadership of the Cuban Revolution. Here it is almost 70 years after the revolution. I've been in Cuba twice already this year as a part of international delegations that go to bring back stories to our communities about how the horrible U.S. sanctions on Cuba are really strangling the Cuban people. It is unbelievable how much those sanctions are now hurting the people of Cuba. But I will say that I want to thank your organizations here who have raised money 500,000 euros to purchase more solar panels that will go to Cuba. So thank you all from Germany for doing that. And we do have international groups that are going, and you have plenty of Cuban solidarity groups in Germany. So I hope you will join with them also as you join with Palestine solidarity groups, join with Cuba solidarity groups, and make a trip to Cuba. And likewise, go to Venezuela. I've been there once this year, within a month after the U.S. military raid on the leadership of Venezuela and the kidnapping, the criminal kidnapping of a head of state by U.S. military forces. Not only was Nicolas Maduro kidnapped, but his wife, Celia Flores, both of them taken from their home, put in a military helicopter, and flown to the United States, and are still in jail in the United States. We have protests every week in New York City about the kidnapping of a head of state. I mean, it's unbelievable what the Trump administration thinks it can do and is doing. And that's why people in Cuba are very anxious about what may happen with the United States government perhaps going in to take out the leadership of the Cuban Revolution. And then we go to Iran. So the solidarity that we have for the people of Iran that are under bombardment by the Israelis, by the U.S., no government is perfect, we'll say that for sure. But what the U.S. government is doing to the people of Iran is horrific. So we stand in solidarity with the people of Iran. But back now to the subject of our meeting today, which is Palestine, and particularly a part of Palestine that Zohar and I have been working on, and many of you too, but the issue of the blockade, and I'm wearing one of the t-shirts that we have, the break the siege, break the naval blockade of Gaza, but it's also a ground blockade, it's an air blockade, it's a total blockade of Gaza, which you all know very well about, and we don't have to go into the great details of it, other to say that it continues, and it's horrific. And then the ethnic cleansing that's going on in the West Bank, the horrific things that are happening there, where we see the young settlers, the militias, the gangs going in and terrorizing people in the West Bank, whether it's the shepherds, the farmers, the people of just living in their homes, and the state of Israel giving a green light for this ethnic cleansing. And then we go further north and we see the destruction of the southern part of Lebanon. So the crimes of the state of Israel continue to mount and mount and mount. And that's why we as citizens of conscience of the world, it is part of our duty to raise these issues with our governments, and it's hard. It's hard in the U.S., and I know it's hard here in Germany. I've heard the stories of the oppression that you as Palestine solidarity activists have. A great pressure that the government has on you to be silent. Don't say anything. But you're not silent. Yet, you speak out. And I understand here in Frankfurt that every Friday and Saturday you are out on the streets with your banners and to make sure the community remembers what's going on in Gaza and in the West Bank. So that's a very brave thing to go ahead and go out on the streets and hold those banners up. So a big round of applause for all of you all. Well, one of the issues of solidarity is what kind of things can we do that bring international attention to the plight of the Palestinians, who are brave, courageous, resilient, despite what Israel and the United States is doing to them. I mean, it is amazing that we see, when we see the videos that are coming from Gaza, that come from the West Bank, and that people who have been under gunfire, who have been brutalized, still are standing there strong. And for us to be strong with them is what we are working toward. And some of the ways that we do it is through boycott, divestment, and sanctions. Every single day that you don't buy a hamburger from McDonald's, you don't buy a Coca-Cola, you know the list. That's a very strong statement. And one of the other statements is our little project that we've had since 2008 it started, are these little boats that try to bring attention of the world to the fact that you can't just take a boat and go into Gaza. Even though it has a coastline of 25 kilometers, you can't get to it. It's about the only place in the world that the coastline is forbidden to the world. So that's why we do it. And it started in 2008, and we had 5 little boats that sailed from Cyprus, and they actually got in. And in 2008, there were 5 boats and six trips of going in, bringing Palestinians out, some of whom needed medical attention, some of whom were students that couldn't get out to accept scholarships in places around the world. But starting in 2009, the Israelis, starting Operation Cast Lead, that 29-day horrific attack on Gaza, starting in late 2008 and then 2009, no boats have been able to go into Gaza. No boats that we have sent. And we have sent boats, and I'll show you the part of the list of them. If you look on the back of this t-shirt, this is a historical t-shirt. This lists the boats that we have sent, 35 of them since 2008 until 2024. But last year, after the global Samud convoy that was stopped in Egypt, a new group of people started saying we want to do a flotilla. And that has resulted in a huge number of boats, which I think Zohar will tell you about. I will just mention that from 2009, we then had, in 2010, we had what was called the Mavi Marmara, a large ship from Turkey with over 600 people on board. And the Israelis helicoptered into the boat, murdered 10 people, shot them, including a 17-year-old young man. There were 6 boats as a part of that flotilla. I was on a boat right next to the Mavi Marmara. So I saw these helicopters come in and heard the sounds of all of the shooting, and then went to prison, and then came home to tell stories. In 2011, we had 10 boats that were primarily in Greece. And then that was 10 boats because we want to sail more boats. Except the Israeli government paid off the Greek government, and the Greek government did not let any of those 10 boats sail. In 2012, we sent boats. 2013, 2015, 2016, we had what was called the women's boat. A woman captain, women crew, and women on board. And I was honored to be a part of that. Zohar was supposed to be, but we had one boat that the engine blew up, and she was on that boat, so she didn't get to go. but she's made up for it.
Andreas is jetzt here. He's now here. He was also 2008.
Matthias was on the phone with Mama.
Ah, please stand
In
up.
2010, yeah.
Yes. Well, and we can tell you the stories of the brutality of the Israelis in 2010. And now we see the same, even stronger brutality of what has happened in these 2025 and 26. So we've had a long history of sending boats. In 2028, we sent Al Ado, and you were a part of that one, I think, and the Freedom boat. Then COVID hit, and we had stopping. But then after COVID, then we started again, and then in 2025, we started with the Madeline small sailboat, and a very important young person, important to the world for her stand for the environment, Greta Thunberg, decided she would join. So when we can get someone who has a big name, then that means more publicity, and more publicity for what we're doing, which is going to try to break that siege of Gaza and to Palestine. And if you watch what Greta Thunberg talks about now, she is so dedicated to Palestine. It has really been an important evolution in her education to now be solidly with the people of Palestine. So
I would like to say something nice. Today I've seen a video with people from Gaza. They are very happy because there was a boat which was distracted, and they got Kooperation, and they got panels which were on the boat. They came with the waves, and they were happy, and they thanked the people who were on protest.
oh, thank you. And you bring up something that we'll get into. How many boats, which you were saying, how many boats did we sail this year? What happened to the boats? What happened to the people on them? But yes, you are so right. There is now one part of a boat that has broken apart in the waves, and a big section of it went home to Gaza. And the people of Gaza welcomed it. And when you see the video of these kids that are lifting it up and taking the solar panels, and one kid has the big steering wheel, steering it. It is so it's heartwarming, because finally, I mean, it wasn't the type of boat we hoped to get there, but part of a boat got to Gaza. So right here in Germany, you've had, how many people were a part of this flotilla, this last one? 8 or no, 20?
From Germany, I think the delegation was about 30. I'm not sure about the number, but...
So 30 people from Germany were a part of the 2026 massive, big flotilla that went through all sorts of problems, starting in late March and 2.5 months later. And the person that can tell you with first-hand experience, I can tell you what happened to the ground crew that was trying to follow all the boats on land. I'm 80 years old, and I'm too old to be on those boats. I'm too wobbly. But a person who's not too wobbly is Zohar Chamberlain, who will now tell you more about the Gaza flotilla of 2026.
Call me not wobblies. Very interesting. So thank you so much for coming here. And I think it is very important to say that in 2026, the Gaza Freedom Flotilla, Sumud Flotilla managed to get a boat again into Gaza. In pieces, but we did it. And I can start by saying, as Anne was saying, I've been part of organizing the flotilla since 2012, and we've done all sorts of things. But we've always said we want more people to join us. We want to have more boats join us, and we didn't know exactly what to do. And the fact that the Madeleine sailed at the time that it sailed, with the new technology that enabled it to also live stream the interception, did something. And to me, it's like a seed that we've planted and has grown into a tree. Because for me, to be sailing on one of the small sailing vessels of the Sumud flotilla with so many boats around us was such a different experience than the experiences we've had before of sailing just one boat, maybe with another boat that's just a day apart, but we never got to see it. And it really is, I think somebody was referring to it as a city of lights, you know, because we sail at night and we see all these boats around us. We hope they're not too close because they may crash into us, but it was really a wonder. And it is, it's also, it has to be said, it's a logistical nightmare. It's so complicated to get the crew, to get the boats. Boats always have problems. The people on the boats have problems because people are people. And we have such a diverse participation in this from so many different countries and cultures and religions and just personalities. But I think it still shows that humanity, or at least part of humanity, cares enough to risk something, risk their lives, because we have Matthias here who's seen with his own eyes how people were killed. So we always keep those martyrs of the Mavi Marmara in our heart. But we wish also that people all over the world will see us not as heroes, but as an example and an inspiration to do more wherever you are. Because we will not stop this genocide. We will not stop this settler colonialist project with just sailing to Gaza. We need to stop it here, where it's supported. Because if it wasn't for the German government, this genocide would not go away. Of course, the US government has its share in all this. So something I was told during this time was people are willing to risk their lives, but they're not willing to be criminals or to be criminalized for their solidarity. And this is what the governments here try to do. They try to criminalize solidarity. And this is what the Israelis are trying to do. They try to say, we are provocators, we are terror supporters. But we could see what happened because, talking about numbers. So we sailed from Barcelona, 39 boats. And we went to Sicily, and we were joined by more boats. And from Sicily, we sailed about 63. And between Sicily and Greece, we were intercepted more than 700 nautical miles away from Gaza. They were so afraid of this big flotilla of over 60 boats that they decided they need to come and try to stop us way, way ahead. And they only managed to stop 22 boats. One of these boats, they left with the people on it, just adrift, very, very dangerous against all, maritime law. But they also kidnapped the people from 21 boats. They took them off those boats and put them on a prison ship. Then took them to Crete. Out of the 180 people that they took, 178 were left on the shore, meaning that the Greek government was complicit again. Because for less than this, the boats that try to rescue people in the Mediterranean are accused of human trafficking. But for Israel to kidnap internationals in the middle of the Mediterranean Sea and then bring them to Crete, where they didn't want to go, this is something that the world or Europe or whoever shouldn't accept with silence.
I did not understand. As the Greek government agreed that Israel brings people to Crete.
Israel came very close to Greek water in an area that it's like a search and rescue area of Greece. So if a boat is adrift in this area, it's the responsibility of the Greek Coast Guard to save those people. What Israel did is it didn't help those people. It took them on a prison ship and then took them to Greece, and Greece accepted it, which is wrong. They should have said no. If you want to take them, take them. I mean, you took them, take them to Israel. But no, they didn't. They took two people to Israel. They took Saif and they took Tiago. And they accused them of all sorts of things. Then they brutalized them, they tortured them, they kept them in isolation. But due to diplomatic pressure, they then released them. They dropped all the charges, and all of a sudden they were there in Israel illegally and they were deported. And Anne was telling me the story of what happened to Tiago, who was just dropped at the border with Egypt and told, somebody will meet you, and there was nobody there. And luckily, some people were in solidarity and they helped him. Gave him a phone, got him to call, but the Brazilian embassy did not have the time to come and pick him up, which, again, if you want to deport somebody, you deport them to their own country. Don't deport them to a different country with no phone, no money, and no connections.
In the middle of the night.
In the middle of the night.
In the Negev desert.
Yeah. And Saif also had, I think, a similar story, and he made it safely to Spain, and then he came to Turkey to participate in the farewell of the boats that left from Turkey. But after this interception, which did not stop us at all, I mean, I was on a boat that was not intercepted that night on the 30th of April. So we just continued, and we went to Crete, and we regrouped the people who were brought to Crete, those who were intercepted, kidnapped, were brought to Crete. Some of them chose to go back home and to tell the story of what happened to them. A lot of them were beaten up, tortured. They came with, black eyes, maybe some broken arms or ribs. And some of them chose to continue. So they came, they joined us. We were joined by more boats at that point, and we sailed on to Turkey. In Turkey, we were, again, joined by more boats. We left from Turkey 52 boats, including 5 boats that sailed under the Freedom Flotilla Coalition, and the rest were Global Sumud. I think for most people, these differences don't make much of a sense. We're all sailing to Gaza, we're all Gaza Flotilla. But for us, these are sometimes issues that take a lot of time. I hope that we learn that we need to be united, we need to work together and be coordinated, because then we're much stronger. And this goes to everybody in solidarity in general, and also here in Frankfurt. It helps when we work together. This is just parentheses. So we sailed from Turkey, and we left the last anchorage on Sunday the 17th of May, and we had a quiet night, but on Monday morning, the 18th of May, we started seeing vessels from the Israeli Navy, and we started hearing of boats that were captured. And again, this is a new thing that Israel has done. It has never done this before, taking people off from their boats, leaving these boats adrift. And this is also what happened, that some of these boats drifted to Cyprus, some of these boats drifted to Turkey, to Egypt, but some of them would maybe end up in Gaza, which is where they should be going. But again, to the people. So what happened to us? The Israeli Zodiac came to the boat I was on a boat called Azure with, we were 7 in total, and they told us all to go to the, what is it, the front of the front of the ship, yeah, the bow. We told them that we had some people with difficulty of moving and that we will not go. They sort of accepted it, and 4 of us went to the bow and 3 of us, including me, stayed. Then the soldiers came on, and you know, of course, they have guns, they are all masked so that you can't see their faces. The first thing they do is they cut the cable of the Starlink. I mean, they jammed the Starlink beforehand, so we couldn't really communicate with the world, and the cameras were not capturing anything. But this is just to show you that the most scary thing for them is the truth. They don't want the world to see what they're doing.
And the Starlink is a satellite.
Yeah, the Starlink is what enables us to have internet connection at sea and live stream whatever is happening. I don't know if some of you were watching, because the live stream was on YouTube. And some of the images now do come out. You can actually see them doing their piracy acts. As I said, on my boat, they were not too violent. They were not nice, and as soon as they realized that I was an Israeli, they asked me if I could speak Hebrew.
Sorry, one quick question. Do you assume that they know you, the IDF soldier?
No, I don't assume, but I have my passport with me and I give it to them and they can see what it is. So, I mean.
But many times we publicize the names of the participants, so they may know.
They may know, but maybe not all of the soldiers. Maybe they were told, maybe they didn't. I think they definitely know some people, because I think when we're talking about Safe and Thiago, for example, they were definitely after them.
Yes.
And people were saying they knew where they were because of the phones. Safe was not even supposed to go all the way to Gaza. And this is another reason why we think they intercepted us so early. But maybe they don't know all 400 people, they don't remember. And it's true that I was the only Israeli, but I don't think that was the main issue. But they asked me if I could speak Hebrew, and I said I will not speak Hebrew when there are people here who don't understand this language, so I kept communicating with them in English. They asked me all sorts of things in Hebrew, and most of them I didn't reply. They did talk to the other people as well, and they were desperately trying to say, we are the good guys, we love life, we want to do good in the world. And you think, it's kind of bizarre. And one of them was telling me, I was in this Nova festival on the 7th of October, I saw what was done. And there's not much point in talking to these guys, not in this situation. But if I was sitting in a different setting with him, I would probably say, what went into your mind when you go and have a party 3 kilometers from a concentration camp? It's bizarre. After a while, they took our passport, they wanted to know who we were, they made sure that we didn't have anything in our pockets, and then they transferred us to a RIB, and the RIB took us to the big prison ship. We went on the ship, we were searched again, we had to take off any clothing that had anything Palestinian on it. I had a kufiya on me, I had to give it up. Some of us wore extra clothing because we thought it might be cold, but they didn't let us keep it. And then they took us into the cage, into a yard that is made out of containers. And there's a door where you can come in, but you're not allowed to use it to go out, and you can't use the container where the door is. So the containers we could use were 2 small 20 feet ones and 3 bigger ones that are 40 feet. And these containers were facing the yard. The yard also has chemical toilets. The floor was wet as I came in, and later they explained to me that when the floor was dry and people sat on the floor, the soldiers didn't like it, so they flooded the thing with water. And then at one point, some of the chemical toilets, because of the way the boat moves, were sort of overflow, so we were, living in a muddy, stinky environment. We could go freely in and out of the containers. On this boat, I did not see soldiers come into this yard, this cage. They were only on the top patrolling. There's barbed wire on the top, even though, we didn't try and we wouldn't climb. The food and water that we got, this was just like bread that we were given, and bottles of water were thrown to us as if we were animals in a cage. Minutes before I'm being led into this yard, there has been shooting with rubber bullets, and one of the captains, Anne told me, she was a captain, a young woman, got shot in the leg, and as I came in, she was there, she was screaming at the soldiers, and then they took her out to be treated, and we were concerned because we didn't know she was alone in another part of the boat. We didn't know what happened to her, so we started negotiating with the soldiers, asking if we could have one of our doctors go and visit her. And after some negotiation, they allowed one of the doctors to go and see her, and they came back, they reported she was okay, and then they allowed her to come back. There were other people on this boat who had injuries, like one of the Belgian guys had a rubber bullet that sort of went like here. It's close to his eye, didn't take his eye out, luckily, but his whole eye was like swollen and black. On other boats,
The German guy.
yeah, exactly. There were two prison boats, and on the other prison boat, Hakan was telling me that he was in a container that had only injured people. And one of these people who were severely injured is Engin from Aschaffenburg. He was shot in the foot by a soldier. Then the same soldier, when he saw him, stepped on his foot to make it worse, and then shot him again. And the fractures in his foot are really complicated. He had to undergo operations in Turkey. And he's home now, trying to recover from this ordeal, but he's still in very strong pain. We hope that he'll recover soon and be able to come and tell his story personally. There were other people who needed medical attention, and this Anne knows more because she was in Istanbul when they all got there. From this boat, we were there for about 2 days, 2 nights and a little bit more. So I was there for about 48 hours, but other people were there longer because they were intercepted before us. They kept bringing more boats in. We didn't really know where they were going or where they were taking us because the boat kept changing its direction. But then we realized that they were just picking up more and more boats. Then they put some people not in our cage, but in a new cage that they arranged, and there were about 6 other boats there. And we could communicate with them between the containers. We could sort of put our head down and see those people. So we get to Ashdod eventually, and they tell us beforehand, don't you dare sing or shout Free Palestine or anything like this because you will suffer. And in our bigger cage with about 200 people, we were pretty calm, but the other smaller cage were shouting Free Palestine. We could hear them. And I think that some of them were beaten already on the boat for that. But a lot of the beating, a lot of the humiliation and brutalizing and sexual assaults happened at the port. Again, I was not eyewitness to this. I was brought in with zip ties, and they sort of, what I did see is that all of us our heads were sort of pushed down as they were leading us into the port, just to get this image of humiliation. And the guy who had my head down at one point put his head also on my neck and strangled me. For what? I have no clue. And then they asked me to take my prosthesis off to put it into the scanner. And I told the woman who was giving me the orders, I said, I'll do it, but you have to take my zip ties off and you have to tell the guy to stop strangling me, because if he does, I cannot do what you're asking. So I was trying to be cooperative. It was, a very bad experience, but we always say what we experience is nothing compared to what Palestinians experience every day for the last 78 years. And there are other differences. We know that whatever we experience would probably end in a few days, because there are people back home who worry about us. There are diplomatic pressure on Israel to release us as soon as possible. There are planes from Turkey that come and pick people up. Palestinians don't get this attention. So we try with our direct action to draw attention to this. We used to say we want to draw attention to Gaza even when bombs are not falling. But now everybody knows what is happening in Gaza, and still not enough people do something about this. And so we would say we do this to show that people can do something and inspire people to take action. Take direct action here against the weapon deliveries, against the weapon industry, against the logistics of the genocide that enables this. And I think there are examples now all over Europe and in the United States and in other parts of the world that people are doing this. We just need to coordinate this, to organize this, and to do this together.
Ja, wir haben jetzt noch eine ganze Stunde Zeit.
Can't be too much, but you can't be too little. Got to be somewhere in the middle, like the Goldilocks syndrome. She had to try everybody's best before she finally got to that middle area where she finally found the one. She had to bring it down just a little bit. You can't be too much, but you can't be too little. Got to be somewhere in the middle, like the Goldilocks syndrome.